If you're a physical therapist and you've never written a periodized program before, you're going to want to watch this whole video because I'm going to be taking a brand new athlete all the way from the interview that I do with them to writing a program to advancing that program for a few weeks. And I'm going to show you the software that I use and all the methods that goes into when I write a program for a brand new athlete. I'm Dr. Joe Camerato. I'm a physical therapist with Across The Continuum, and my goal is to make you a better strength coach as a physical therapist. With the introduction of any new client, patient, or athlete, we're going to start with the interview process. Now, if you've been following my videos for a while, or if you've been following Across the Continuum for a while, you know that we actually have a free guide on how to ask the right questions every single time. Now, if you go to our website, acrosscontinuum.com, you'll see that in the free resources section, you can go to guides and you can go to the best programming evaluation form, and it allows you to go ahead and enter all your information and then download that guide for free, no strings attached. And so you can print it out, you can have it right in front of you when you're onboarding a new patient or trying to figure out what it is that you need as far as information to get to write a program. Now, for those of you who have watched that video, this is going to be a revisiting of all those points. And for those of you who have not seen that video, we're going to go over the 3 general categories of questions to ask when onboarding a brand new athlete. So this is what the form looks like. It's got everything that we're going to need to ask them, including their age, their name, what their chief complaint is, their activity that they're currently doing, their current activity level, their goals, and then it has a spot for all of their equipment and then a spot for you to write their program for them with little hints about what it is that goes into a program. What we're going to go over now is we're going to go over the athlete interview that I conducted with one of my brand new personal athletes just last week. Now, the 3 things that we want to ask are, number 1, what are their goals? Number 2, what is their experience, both past and present? And then number 3, what do they have availability, both time and equipment wise? So for this particular athlete, he had a long list of goals, which is super great because it helps to kind of highlight the pathway that we're going to want to take to get him to that destination, or at least give us an idea of where he's looking to go. So his first and most important one was that he wants to fix his squat, in his own words. He says that he actually really enjoys squats. He's just not very good at them. And as of right now, he's not super concerned with numbers, but if he had to put a number on it, he'd want to get about 2 times body weight. Now, the body weight recommendation or the body weight goal is actually pretty common. It's not a super great way to kind of think about things because it can be a little bit difficult to reach those sometimes depending on your responsibility or your response to training. But all the same, we just want to know that he wants to get stronger in his squat. He also says that he's had fluctuating shoulder pain for the last 6 to 7 years, despite his best efforts to fix it. Now, I've said this time and again, we as physical therapists are not very good at managing our own symptoms. There are some people that are just going to get better, and there are some physical therapists that can manage those things without any issues. But myself personally, the first time that I actually hired a coach who was also a physical therapist, who now writes our monthly research review, was because I wasn't able to manage my own knee pain. I just couldn't make it happen. I couldn't do the right things on a consistent basis. And we're bad objective observers of ourselves. And so just hiring somebody or outsourcing that to really help me is kind of how I got over that knee pain. And I still have that coach today. So he's had fluctuating shoulder pain for the last 6 to 7 years. And if he was looking at a more concrete goal, again, he's always thought it would be awesome to be able to press his body weight overhead again, which is something that we can definitely pull on as far as thread goes, as far as goals go. But again, the goal is just to figure out where they're wanting to go. Now, number 3, I'd like to get my body weight around 165 to 170 pounds, and he's currently at 185 pounds, which is totally reasonable. We can definitely write that down as far as goals and things that we want to tailor this program for. And then finally, he wants to be more athletic. He wants to include plyometrics and explosive movements. And he wants to incorporate that stuff in his training so he can continue to move well as he ages, which is totally fine. You'll find that the goals of patients, as you know, as a physical therapist, vary wildly. And so there's not really a good excuse for not taking goals because they can be so unique and they will dictate what rehab and what this periodization and programming looks like. Now, next, once we have our goals, we want to go into what is your experience, both past and present. So you can see here that currently we want to look at things like his activity level. So he currently does Peloton rides 2 to 3 times a week, but as formal barbell training, it's been almost 3 months since he's done it and almost 6 months since he's done consistent weight training. So I would consider him right now to be pretty out of shape as far as conditioning goes for weight training, or pretty deconditioned in the gym room. Now, it's not to say that he's not doing things that we would generally see would promote health, but we want to make sure that we're kind of drawing a line in the sand in a good spot when it comes to this initial program that we're going to write. Because if we're overshooting it, then he's going to not have a good time. He's going to be very sore, or he increases his risk of injury. And if we are undershooting, then he's going to not be doing enough, and he's probably going to decondition while we are writing this program for him. As far as experience goes, we also want to know the past. Does he know how to move, so to speak? Does he have experience with any sort of cardiovascular activity or any strength movements in general, or are we starting from ground zero? Now, he says that he's trained for 3 half marathons, which means that he knows how to do steady state cardio. He knows how to run. He knows how to kind of get into this training mode, which is good information for me. Then he says that he did CrossFit during his first semester of PT school, as much as 12 to 14 hours a week, which is a lot. But what this tells me is that, again, he knows how to move a barbell. He knows how to move a dumbbell. He knows how to move a kettlebell. He might have good experience on the pull-up bar, doing any sort of gymnastics. And so this is all good information, because this information right here, as far as the CrossFit goes, is going to paint a wildly different picture than somebody who might not have any sort of experience at all. Next, in the what is his experience, we want to see if he has any aches and pains or anything that we're going to have to kind of write the program around. He says that he has shoulder issues, more evenly bilateral, and seem to be mostly due to the lack of range of motion and instability. Whatever his symptoms are due to, it's good to kind of note whatever this pain and injuries are like, as well as some mild back pain, because as we're writing a program, we want to take into account the tolerance or the sensitization or the sensitivity of these areas and make notes as we're writing the program. And then finally, we want to know, what do they have available, both time and equipment wise. This one's really important, and we really need to know what medium or what movement variations that are available. If he doesn't have any of this stuff, we can still write a program for a long time, but it just makes it easier if he does have a lot of equipment or access to equipment. Now, if he didn't have equipment, it's not like we can't write a program, but equipment affords an opportunity. The more equipment that you have, the more movement variations that we can add in, the more novelty that we can add in, and the more fun that he can have with this novelty, unless he just really likes doing the stuff that kind of is involved with the equipment that he has, and then everything's totally fine. Now, we want to know what the structure of the program is going to want to look like for his schedule. So he wants to do 4 days a week, 60 minutes during the week, and 75 minutes on the weekends. And this is the Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday split. So if you can answer these 3 questions that, again, are in this form, which is mainly, what are their goals? What's their experience, both past and present? And then what equipment do they have? Then you can write a program for anybody. So let's go ahead and write the initial program for this guy. We're going to use TrueCoach here, which is just a personal training platform. There's 100 of these. All you need to do is find one that can deliver the program, has video examples, and you can communicate through it, and you can really deliver this to them. Again, we use TrueCoach just because it's pretty simple. It doesn't really have any issues with it. There are some things that I wish that it had better, but TrueCoach has been what we've been using for a few years now. If you want to get the first 2 months free, I'll go ahead and link my referral code down into the description, but this is really one of the best ones that is out there. So once you get into TrueCoach, there's a section called Programs where we can come and do a little bit of practice. Now you can see that I have a sample program already put up. When I onboard new athletes, there's a section that I really like to go through, which is the onboarding, which is basically just my best attempt at drawing a line in the sand based on the interview that I conducted with this athlete, and trying my best to meet them where they're at or where they need to go. The onboarding week also serves as a means of seeing them move. I don't really do any sort of Zoom sessions when it comes to while they're actually training. Yes, we do a Zoom session while we're onboarding them or while we're interviewing them. But when it comes to this first week, I'll request that they post videos so that I can see how they're moving and how they're kind of doing things, and if there's any really things that are hanging off of them or that I want to change. So let's go through building out this onboarding week. So I already have onboarding day 1. Now my normal warm-up is super simple, 3 rounds with an empty barbell, 8 squats, 8 strict press, and 8 deadlifts. So all we need to do is come in and type in this search bar something like a back squat. Now if it's not in here, all you need to do is, let's say I don't know, back squat with Joe. You can see that there's nothing populating here, and that I actually get this little plus sign on this video camera. All I need to do is go to YouTube or Vimeo, search for whatever it is that I'm looking for. Obviously, this isn't a back squat with Joe, but I just need to come in here, copy that hyperlink, and then I can stick it right in there, and it will be added to our library so that I can pull from it again. Okay, back squat, strict press, and then deadlift. Cool. Now I've been asking a readiness rating just to see if they are feeling up to or how they are feeling when it comes to getting this program going. So how would you rate your readiness? 0 being not prepared at all and 10 being super ready. And then I usually will include 3 movements, 2 kind of more primary movements, and then kind of a like secondary or an isolation movement. And the more that you get into programming, the more that you understand that it's totally an art, and it flows, and it's up to you and the athlete, and what the programming looks like can be really anything. But this is just kind of how I usually end up writing it. So movement number 1 for him, somebody who's more so interested in squatting, is we're going to have to add in some squatting. So what we'll do is maybe let's do a pause squat. Okay, we're going to want him to work up to 3 sets of 6 at RPE 5 to 6. Now, if you're not familiar with RPE, it means rate of perceived exertion. Now, rate of perceived exertion is just a subjective intensity or a subjective rating of how close to failure you feel. I've recorded a whole other video on that. I'll go ahead and link that down in the description as well, or it might be, I don't know, on the sidebar if I'm lucky. But if you want more information on RPE, go ahead and watch that video. Now, I call this onboarding week a week to get acclimated or to acclimatize to training in general. And so the volume is generally pretty low and the intensity is generally pretty low until I can get a feel for how this whole week goes. So I'll generally put work up to 3 sets of 6 at RPE 5 to 6. And then I'll also cue them to do a video. So for them, I'll say a posterolateral view with the hips in frame. Now, ideally, their entire body would be in frame, but sometimes it doesn't work out that way. So now that we have the first movement done, let's go ahead and move on to the second one. Now, with a back squat, because the pins are at a certain height on the squat rack, I usually like to pair it with some sort of strict press. Let's just go with push press. Again, same sort of thing. I want to keep the volume and the intensity low just so I can get a feel for how this person is going to manage things and how they're going to tolerate, especially considering that they are not super great as far as shoulders go. They've said themselves that they have had almost 10 years of shoulder pain, so I want to see how that kind of shakes out. Same sort of thing, asking for a example video. And then number 3, I like to do maybe like a barbell reverse lunge. Just kind of this like single leg reciprocal motion, just to get them doing a little bit higher volume. Now for the secondary movement, I will do a little bit higher in volume, 8 to 10 rather than 6, or maybe even 12 to 15. And then keeping the intensity low until I can figure out how they're feeling. And then after that secondary movement, there's nothing better than doing a little bit of steady state cardio. Now, ideally, we want to get up to 25 minutes 3 times a week because that hits the minimum of the physical activity guidelines for Americans of 75 minutes a week of vigorous intensity state aerobic activity. But for right now, we might do 12 or 12 to 15 minutes at a mild to moderate RPE 6. If we're going to do longer, I might do an RPE 4 or 5 because the craze now is doing zone 2. Now, I'll also do an RPE rating so I can see how they're feeling as far as just the session in general. If they rate it at like a 2, then I know that they need more volume or intensity or movement complexity. And then I ask how long it took so that I can hit those parameters as far as 60 minutes and 75 minutes. So he wanted to work out Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday. The onboarding week, I usually will make a 3-day split just so that I can get... There's not a whole lot of videos that I really need to see after those 3 days. I can split everything I need across 3 days or so. And so let's go ahead and go into onboarding day 2. So same thing, readiness rating, same warm-up. I don't really get too fancy with the warm-ups because I don't really think that they need to be too fancy. But let's do something like a sumo deadlift. Same sort of split here. I think 3 sets of 6 at RP 5 to 6 is a totally fine place to start. Again, this onboarding week is just my best attempt at drawing a line in the sand and seeing how they respond and then changing it up after that. So sumo deadlift, and then how about maybe like a close grip bench press? Okay, just with bench press, I might bump up the volume just a little bit just because that's my bias and that's what feels right for me. And then sumo deadlift, close grip bench press, maybe something like, a landmine row, single arm landmine row. Yeah. That way we can keep the volume high, the intensity generally low, but I might bump this up again just because things are a little bit easier with these isolation movements. We can get a little bit closer to failure, a little bit higher in the proximity to failure region without risking the remainder of the workout because the workout's already done at this point. And then again, he has a rowing machine, so we'll do maybe a row for a different set of cardio. Okay, and then let's do onboarding day 3. Now we've done squat, deadlift, press, bench press, and then we've done a single arm landmine row. So let's go ahead and maybe revisit a squatting pattern. So let's do a front squat. Who doesn't love a good front squat? Let's do maybe a pendlay row. Get that horizontal pulling action going on. Okay, then I was going to do an alternating box step up. Let's do a Bulgarian split squat. Another squatting type pattern, but I think that he'll be able to handle it. And then finally, we'll go ahead and have him do just another different type of cardio so he doesn't get bored. Now, I also like to include a weekly check-in. So this covers everything that I would really want to know as far as how the program is going or how it went so that I can get ahead of any sort of complaints or gripes and do my good coaching due diligence. So we're asking what went well this week, what we want to improve on the coming week. We ask if the current program is moving them towards their goals. Again, trying to see if I kind of hit that goal appropriately. What will you change about the current coaching athlete relationship? I want to know if there's anything better I can do on my end. How are the stress levels through the week? How would they rate training monotony? Are they bored at all with the program? I would hope not at this point. And then do we need to set up a call for anything? So now that we have the first week done, we can go ahead and move on to the second week. Now this is where we're going to add another day. So we're going to copy those days, and then we're going to come down to week 2. And instead of calling this onboarding, we're going to call it week 2, day 1. Oh, week 2. We're going to call this week 2, day 2. We're going to call this guy week 2, day 3, if it'll change. And then we'll go ahead and add in another day. So he wanted Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday. All right, so now that we have a week under our belts, let's go ahead and bump up the volume here. Now, when it comes to adjusting the RPE or the intensity or the proximity to failure in this case, we don't really need to adjust things too much this early on. Now, if you want to learn more about proximity to failure, I have another video that I just recorded last week or 2 weeks ago at this point, all about proximity to failure. And what it says is basically we don't need to get really close to failure or really high in intensity to see good changes in strength. So we can play with the volume for a little bit, and then as we get further into the program, we'll adjust the proximity to failure. But this also is based on their goals as well. If they're a competitive athlete or competitive strength athlete, then they're probably going to want to get better at building skill closer to failure. But for this guy right now, considering this is just week 2 and he hasn't been training for 6 months, we'll keep intensity pretty low. Okay, push press volume goes up, barbell reverse lunge volume goes up, and then we'll up the air bike volume as well. And that's it for that one. Same thing here. We're going to bring up the volume across the board. And the thing to remember here is that this is all assuming that everything went super great this first week. Now, if he was saying that these are 2s as far as session RPE, which means that things were super easy, then I'm going to go ahead and bump things up a whole lot more than just the volume across the board. I might add a metabolic conditioning or a circuit, or I might add more intensity earlier on than I normally would. But let's say he rated everything a 9 as far as session RPE, then I probably have to take things down across the board here going forward. But let's just assume that everything went super great. My interview process gave me the insights that I needed to write a good program for him, and I just hit it right on the money. Okay, so now we got week 2, day 1, day 2 done. We'll move on to day 3. Again, we'll bump the volume up, keep the intensity the same, and we want to change that run a little bit. He can probably tolerate more running, considering that he is familiar with marathons. Now he wanted a 4th day, so all we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and take our skeleton, and we're going to write a day 4 here. Now again, we've been flip-flopping squat, deadlift, squat, so let's do maybe another deadlift. Let's do a single, let's do a landmine deadlift. No, let's not do that. Let's do a good morning. Okay, so we'll search for a barbell good morning here. Because this is the first exposure, I'll probably take the intensity back down. And because this is a movement that I'm assuming he's not going to be able to load really heavy with, I'm probably going to keep the the volume higher, because as we get into 5s, 4s, 3s, the weight's going to go up naturally. All right, so we have our barbell good morning. We have our Pendlay row, so let's change that. How about, let's do another bench press. No, let's do another overhead press. So let's do a Arnold press. Standing. Let's do single arm seated. Okay. Again, we'll take the volume down. And because this is more of an isolation movement with a dumbbell, I'll probably do the volume a little bit higher. Post a video. See your shoulder. But again, preferably I want to see his whole body. Spelling is important. Okay. All right, so we have a good morning. We have a seated Arnold press. Now let's do, how about a hip thrust? Barbell hip thrust on bench. I think that one will work. And for this one, we'll keep the volume a little bit lower, and we'll keep the intensity a little bit lower as well. Again, just to see how he tolerates that. Now we might come back to, well, let's do this. We're going to do an alternating box step up for cardio. Now recently I learned that doing an alternating box step up to a low box at least, so we're going to keep him to do 10 to 12 inch box for this one. Isn't that hard? It isn't as hard as it sounds, and it can be a pretty easy way to get in your low intensity cardio for a long duration of time. All right, so now that we got week 2 done, let's go ahead and move on to week 3. Now you'll see the longest part of writing a program and writing a new program is the new aspect of it, is putting together, based on the interview that you did, components that are going to match the goals, the activity tolerance, and the equipment availability of the athlete. But once you get past that, it's really just monitoring how they go as far as how things are turning out and their response to the training itself. So same thing, we just come through here, we click all these that we want, we hit the copy button, and then we come through. Now, when it comes to my athletes, I only write a few days to a week or so in advance, just so I can see how the response to the training goes, if there's any changes that I need to make in the moment or for the next exposure to this workout. And then if there's anything that needs to change as far as enjoyment goes, because if you write 4 weeks in advance, that's totally fine, but there's not really that ability to adjust things on the fly. So now that we're a couple weeks in, we're on week 3, let's go ahead and take the intensity up, and we'll take the volume down again. Now the push press and the back squat, we're going to go to 4 sets of 5 at an RP 6 to 7. I'm going to take these cues out because he probably doesn't need them anymore. And then for the reverse barbell lunge, I'll probably do the same thing. I'll keep the intensity, I'll get the intensity to go up, but I'll keep the volume the same. Something with a barbell reverse lunge, like one of these isolation movements, I probably won't take the volume down a whole lot. As we get 8, 10, 12 weeks into a program, you can only go so low when it comes to a reverse lunge. Nobody wants to do heavy singles on a reverse lunge. That doesn't sound fun at all. And now that we're a few weeks in, I'll probably bump the cardio up to 25 plus minutes. All right, so sumo deadlifts, same thing. I'm going to take the intensity up, RPE 6 to 7, I'll take the volume down, and you'll notice that we're just following a basic linear progression here. As the weeks go by, the volume goes down and the intensity goes up. Okay, that intensity is already up, so let's bump it up just a little bit more. Again, with these more isolation movements or these simple movements, the intensity being higher doesn't produce as much fatigue, and it doesn't damage the workout as much as maybe doing a really high intensity deadlift will damage, the ability to produce force for the remainder of the workout. If you want more information on that, cover it in my proximity to failure video. All right, so as we're getting into the front squat, we're gonna go ahead and take the same approach. Pendlay row, historically I've kept the volume higher on these ones just because. Same sort of thing, it kind of depends on the goal. If they really want to improve their deadlift, then this is going to be good for getting into the start position and building tension in the bottom of the deadlift. But for him, if we're just doing a lat and upper back workout, then we're going to want to keep the volume higher. And the split squats, these are pretty good where they're at. I'll probably just keep them there. Run. Now with my prescription, I usually won't go higher than 25 plus minutes as far as intensity goes, as far as running volume goes, or really any cardio volume, just because we're hitting that. In his case, we're hitting 100 minutes of steady state cardio, and he has the ability to go higher if he wants. He just has to let me know, but he doesn't have to as far as getting that minimum effective dose of aerobic activity. All right, now as far as day 4 goes, since this is his second time around doing that one, we're going to bring the the volume up. It'd be cool if I could say that right. And we'll probably keep the intensity lower here. And then same thing, we'll do 25 plus minutes for that one. All right. Now you can see where this is going. This is about the same gist for week 4. I'm not going to go into it because we don't really need to. You can see what I'm talking about here. But this is the gist of it. This is the interview process helps with building the onboarding week, which helps with building the subsequent weeks. And the check-ins are, I forgot to carry the check-ins. The check-ins really are what helps with keeping really up to date with how this athlete is feeling. Does he feel like things are going well? If he doesn't, I know I need to change something. Does he feel like our relationship is good? If he doesn't, I know I need to change something. If there's something he wants to improve, I know I can add it in next week. This is what we call an emerging programming strategy. Now, all this is different language to you. Don't forget that we offer a whole lot of free resources. We have an 8-week strength program that you can run through yourself. That also comes with a whole lot of periodization information. We have a periodization guide in and of itself. We have a guide on the back squat, on the deadlift, and on even putting together your own gym for under $2,000. Now, if you want to skip all the free stuff and you just want to have us hold your hand, we also have a course that is totally built for physical therapists all around becoming what we call a clinical coach, or becoming a strength forward physical therapist for that wave of strength forward patients that is coming at us. It's got 6 modules, and it's my best attempt at building what I do into a very easy to digest and easy to understand framework for physical therapists looking to be better strength coaches. We go over coaching, periodization, pain and injury, teaching the lifts, recovery, and lifestyle and behavior change. And it's even improved for 23 CEUs, and that's just the self-guided one. If you end up looking into the mentored one, which we have on a quarterly basis, this comes with 30 CEUs. It comes with a group program so that you actually get to do the training that we're learning and teaching you how to do, and you get to come on weekly live discussions with us. And I think it's really great, but I'm biased. Now, if you want more information on that, again, everything is housed at acrossthecontinuum.com, and so go ahead and head over there for any and all information on strength training, strength coaching as a physical therapist. Now, if you found this information helpful, as always, please share it with your coworkers and with your physical therapist friends. Go ahead and comment below to let me know what I missed or what I should do a video on next, and make sure to subscribe to our channel so that you can never miss strength coaching and strength training aspects of being a physical therapist.